Quawan was a good kid, a loving child.
Exclusive new information this morning in the death of a Louisiana teenager that we first reported on last month. 15-year-old Quawan Charles.
We have an important update on a story we reported Monday. Police in Baldwin, Louisiana released a video.
Information tonight in the ongoing investigation into the mysterious death of Quawan Charles.
Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. Do not mind my voice. I am just getting over a cold. Now, I don't want to get on here rambling too much, but if you are unfamiliar with my channel or this particular segment of my channel, we do talk about mostly everything on this channel. I do travel vlogs, beauty videos, home decor, just everything. But on this particular segment, I do talk about all things true crime, bringing light to those cases that are, for the most part, just swept under the rug and forgotten about, maybe talked about for a little bit, and then after that, there's no more attention on these cases, and especially in my community, the Black community. So I do feel like it is important. It's sort of my duty to bring light to these cases. So if you guys are interested in these cases, such as the one that we will be talking about today, you can subscribe. And if you don't want to subscribe, fully commit, you can just stop by and watch. And in the future, if you guys do decide you want to subscribe, then you can go ahead. And I am still trying to come up for a permanent name for this series. I have a few ideas, but if you guys have any ideas, you could definitely put them in the comment section of this video below, or you can send it to my business email that will be in the description box and also in the first comment. But I was rambling too much, so without further ado, let's get into Quawan's story. Now, to just be honest, researching this case had definitely kept me up at night for numerous reasons. I mean, just hearing his mother's pleads and cries, it was definitely hard to cover this case, especially being a mom to a young man. Now, it had been a crisp winter Monday morning when Quawan had been born on January 24th, 2005 to be exact. And he was born to his beautiful mother, Roxanne, Charles Nelson, and his father, Kenneth Jackal. Unlike most of Quawan's peers that enjoyed, going outside, playing at the park, exploring, things like that, Quawan enjoyed his solitude. He liked to play indoors and just basically keep to himself. His family describes him as a quiet and reserved kid. This was a kid who, in his free time, enjoyed riding his four-wheeler, playing with his puppy, fishing, just regular fun activities. Quawan had been a part of a very huge family, one that consisted of a lot of siblings, a lot of aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews, and also two godfathers that had been very close family friends. So as you can imagine, this young man was surrounded by so much love and just so much people, and huge families are literally the best. I'm sure that they were very close and for the most part got along well. As I mentioned before, this young man was surrounded by so much love, and he definitely had a lot of love to give. His family spoke on the long-lasting impact that he had on everyone that he knew and strangers. So I can just imagine the devastation of losing Quawan. And sadly, Quawan's death impacted a nation. His mother spoke in an interview how much she loved him and how deeply he loved her. And her interviews definitely broke my heart because you can see how much pain she was in from this loss. Around the time that this had happened, Quawan had actually moved in with his father, and he had been actually attending a new school. So he was pretty unfamiliar with the area. And as I stated before, his family described him as a very reserved kid. So he wasn't social. According to sources, on October 30th, 2021, just shy of 3 years ago, before his unaliving, Quawan had actually been seen at his father's residence, so the home that they shared together. However, later on that day, his father had just got back in the house from just a quick store run, and he went to go check in on his son, as regular parents do, and he went to go knock on his door, and initially he did not get any answers, so he went ahead and he knocked harder just because he thought Quawan might be sleeping or something, but he still did not receive any answer from Quawan. So Mr. Jacko had actually ended up breaking into his room so he can, see what was going on because he was concerned. And to his surprise, Quawan was not there, so his intuition was correct. Now, this of course alarmed Mr. Jacko because this was completely unlike Quawan. And if you guys remember, I had just said that he just moved to this area. He just got to this school, so he had a new school, new area, was new him kind of thing. Like, he didn't know not a soul, not anyone. So it was very alarming for his father. To Mr. Jacko, it was like, where did you go? It was widely believed that Quawan had left before or around 3 p.m. and they thought this only because his mother was scheduled to pick him up at 3 p.m. and Quawan wasn't there. So of course that sadly never got to happen. So at this time, his mother is frantically calling him nonstop and she's not getting any answer. At this point, Quawan's parents is beyond worried. Around 7 p.m. that same day, his parents did what any frantically worried parent would do in this situation, and they called the authorities to further assist them with this situation. Now, this is where things start to get a little tricky and really frustrating. Now, the parents had so much anger towards the police due to how they handled their son's case. They stated that the police handled this case so poorly and basically just brushed it off. As you know, the first hours, minutes, even seconds is very crucial between the time that a child goes missing and the police starts to look for them. So the way they handled this case was just very frustrating. The police had begun to ask his family questions such as, was he a troubled kid? Did he have a troubling past? Any run-ins? Things like that. And if he would be attending the football game that had been occurring. His parents expressed to the police that while he was not a troubled kid at home, he did have some issues at school, and he was actually placed on curfew by the 16th District Judicial District Court. And it had been due to unnamed reasons. I tried to research and see, but I don't know if it was sealed or anything, but I could not find no information on that. Now, his father, Mr. Jacko, did decide to go ahead and head over to those places and just try to see if he was there. But obviously he turned up with nothing. Now, you guys keep in mind that it was the day before Halloween, so there was a lot of Halloween parties going on, a lot of events happening. And there had actually been a Halloween party that had been occurring around that time. And that's also what the police thought that Quawan had went to. But when Mr. Jacko went ahead and attended this party to see if Quawan was there, he came up empty-handed once again. His mother, Roxanne, even drove 35 miles to and from her house to his father's house just to see if she would see him, if Quawan had maybe went over there to get a head start on meeting her or just decided to go over there by himself. But she turned up empty-handed as well. Everyone was beyond worried at this point, and I'm sure a million thoughts had been running through their heads at this time. Is he okay? Who is he with? Is he hurt? What's going on? So the police reassured his parents that they had been doing everything that they had been supposed to be doing to help them find their baby boy. But that could not have been farther from the truth. So as his parents should, they decided to take matters into their own hands. On November 3rd, so just 4 days after Quawan went missing, the Iberia Parish Sheriff Department decided to go ahead and get involved in this investigation. Later on that day, around 6 p.m., a body had been found in a sugarcane field near Lorville, and his body had been found legit 20 miles from the home that he shared with his father. And the more disturbing part is the fact that they went ahead and found this information by sending a signal to Quawan's phone, which is like, obviously that could have happened days ago to go ahead and pinpoint where he was at when the parents first mentioned it. But the autopsy had came up with the fact that there had been muddy waters found in his airway before his tragic ending. And this area had actually been 20 miles from the home that he shared with his father. The investigators had actually found his body by sending a signal over to his phone, which to me it's like, why couldn't that have happened a lot sooner? I feel like if that would have happened a lot sooner and the police would have taken it seriously more sooner, maybe, just maybe, Quawan would be saved. He would still be with us, or at least would have gotten help sooner. But upon further investigation, the sheriff's office had actually discovered muddy water in his airways. So to them, the cause of death was drowning for Quawan. But of course, Quawan's family was not buying this out. No one was buying this at all. This young man's autopsy photo told a completely different story than what they had just conjured up. And I am of course not showing that photo on this channel at all. It is on the internet and you do have free will if you do want to go ahead and see it. But I'm not going to show it here. It's just too graphic. But everyone has free will, so if you guys do want to go ahead and check it out, you can look it up on Google. They do have an uncensored version. But what I will say is that half of Quawan's lip was gone and his teeth was exposed. It was a very disturbing photo. And it's just like, honestly, how did this happen? And this is exactly what Quawan's family had been questioning him. A lot of people had the question of, if Quawan drowned, how did all those things happen to his face? And most importantly, how the heck did he end up in a sugarcane field if it was said that he drowned? Investigators had told the family that maybe the animals had gotten to Quawan's body, and that is why his face was in the condition that it was in, and he had all those scratches and stuff on his body. And first of all, I'm sure it was very heartbreaking for his family to hear that, but secondly, they were not buying it at all. They were just not buying any of the police stories at this point. So finally, the autopsy comes back and they have a death date for Quawan. It is determined that the same day that Quawan went missing was the same day that his life was tragically taken from him. Now, this would have given time for the body to be tampered with by whatever was out there. But the question still remained, how did he end up in a sugarcane field after drowning? Of course, to Quawan's family, this looked terrible. It had been told to the family that all the scratches and wounds on his body had been from aquatic animal activity. But Quawan's parents and also some of the public felt as if foul play had been definitely involved.
Demonstrators then left the town's former police department and marched down Highway 182. Of silence for Quawan and heard from the family's attorney about some of the new developments that have come out. This week, the coroner said he believed Quawan drowned and the injuries seen on him were done after he died.
We got a preliminary.
The coroner went ahead and let the public know that those injuries occurred after he had passed. Yet again, there was still a major question in this investigation that still stood. And the family's attorney had actually brought this to light during one of his speeches at protests for Quawan. Just basically stating what I've been saying the entire time. How did he end up in the landfill with muddy water in his lungs? And most importantly, how did someone who stood 5 feet 6 inches drowned in 2 feet of water, stating that not unless there had to be another cause associated. The family had actually raised over $100,000 just so they could be able to order a second autopsy for Quawan. And of course, they wanted the autopsy just for the sake of peace of mind and to just get a second opinion on what happened to their child. And most importantly, because they did not trust the department. While the autopsy results still remained the same, the cause of death could not be determined. They also went on to state that they found no premortal trauma or no natural diseases.
We had a preliminary coroner's report yesterday, which tells us that animals, aquatic animals, are the cause of the grotesque injuries of Quawan. Y'all buying that? No!
Now, despite what we do know now, the police had still at this time been looking at this as a homicide. They wanted to know how Quawan got there, and most importantly, they wanted to know what happened on October 30th. They obviously wanted any information or any evidence on his whereabouts, what could have happened, who he could have been with, video or photo proof, and they were also trying to see if he was kidnapped or if he went off willingly, and those questions lead us to November the 11th. On November 11th, the investigation finally seemed to start picking up, and there had actually finally been a video released of Quawan on that fateful day. The police had actually received a video, and I'm not sure where they received this video from, but they received this video of Quawan leaving his father's home on October 30th, and he actually walked up to an unidentified car and entered that car willingly. At this point, kidnapping had been ruled out since we saw that he was going into the car willingly. And though this information could have seriously blew the case right open and got us some answers quickly, the police did not release this vital evidence right away. 6 days, you guys, a whole 6 days later, this video was released to the public finally, and that day happened to be the 17th of November. And once that video was released, you guys, the dots had finally been connected, sort of. So like I said, Quawan had been seen in this video getting into a car with someone, and it was an unfamiliar car, and it seemed from the video that he did know the people. He was very comfortable with them from what we can see, but his parents did not know who this person was or who the car belonged to, and they immediately let that be known to law enforcement. Nor did they know who could have potentially taken him or where he could have been at that moment. And what frustrated me even more was the fact that his parents did not find out from law enforcement. They had actually found out from a third party. And to my knowledge, it's unsure who the source is, but that is how they found out. And it's just like a slap in the face, because it's like, not only were you neglectful in the beginning, but you were also neglectful and you neglected to tell me what was going on with my child, basically. Now, the parents did find out eventually who Quawan had went off with. And they had found out that he had actually been with 17-year-old Gavin Irwing and his mother Janet. His parents were obviously confused at this point, beyond confused at this point. And I know besides confused, they were frustrated, because researching this case, covering this case, I found myself getting so frustrated. I had to pause so many times because it was just too much. But immediately his parents let the police know that there was no permission given to Gavin or his mother to have Quawan in their presence. And it had clicked to Quawan's father after learning who it was that he had actually spoken to the pair the day that his son went missing. And if you remember, it was October 30th, just a day before Halloween. Gavin had actually told Quawan's father that he was hanging with Quawan, and then later on that day, Quawan just stood up and told him that he was leaving. Now, according to Gavin, he said that Quawan left on his own merit. He proceeds to tell Mr. Jacko that Quawan just stood up and told him out of his mouth that he was just leaving. Gavin claims that he asked Quawan where he was going, but he didn't get a response from Quawan. Quawan just up and left. After this, Gavin and his mother suddenly just disappeared, like poof, gone. That was it. People, of course, found this very odd. Before I continue, I do want to go ahead and just dive into Janet's past real quick. And these are just things that people had put out after they done extensive research on her. Now, it had been said that Janet had been arrested 5 times prior to this incident since the year of 2002. These charges were listed as possession of synthetic cannabinoids and other illicit drugs listed, trespassing, simple burglary, and also violation of probation. However, there had been one particular charge that she had that people felt were closely related to Quawan's passing. So in the year of 2010, Janet's ex-husband, who happened to be the father of her two youngest children, he had went ahead and asked the judge to grant him a restraining order against Janet. His reasoning for this was because he made very serious claims that Janet had been very abusive towards both their 5-year-old and their 2-year-old, stating that she dropped their children on the floor, allowed their 2-year-old to drink from her beer bottle. She allowed both the 5-year-old and the 2-year-old to play in the street, and she had also been accused of stealing his medication. And that was not it. He also accused her of stealing his money and his truck in the middle of the night. So those were just some of the things that warranted the judge to go ahead and grant him a restraining order against his ex-wife. And I mean, with all of that you guys just heard, as he should, right? But even with all of that, the police had not officially been investigating Quawan's murder. Yes, they had it listed as a homicide, but they were not taking the proper steps that they were supposed to in bringing this case justice. The police had actually been hiding, for whatever reason, the steps that they were taking to bring his case to some sort of justice and just bring some kind of closure to his parents. But they did go ahead and tell the public that they were speaking to suspects, just people that had been around Quawan before his passing, anyone that knew any type of information for them. The police did mention that they spoke with Janet and her son amongst a few others, and the way it was described in numerous interviews, it was as if people were unsure if the police had spoke with them. And of course, after being interviewed, Janet and her son just up and left, like just completely disappeared. And I am guessing after getting information, the police went ahead and went to their residence just to speak to them further. Upon arriving, the police had actually found out that the pair was evicted from their home. So I was not there, so I obviously don't know the exact events that transpired, but we can obviously assume that one of the reasons that they bailed was because they did not want to have police interaction. When asked about his daughter's whereabouts, Janet's father let the police know that he did not speak nor have he seen his daughter for the last 3 months. He followed up letting the police know that neither of their family members had spoken to Janet nor her son at all. And I don't know if he told the police that to tip them off so they don't go and waste their time asking. I don't know why he implied that, but that is what was said when asked about Janet. So a sheriff that had been working on the case, he stated that footage from around the time that Quawan had went missing had actually surfaced, and it had been footage of him in the specific area that his body had been found. So just to clarify, there was an additional clip from the one in front of his father's house, and in this clip it shows Quawan very much alive, but we obviously don't know what kind of state he was in, what he was feeling in that moment, if he was confused or lost, and he did not look too much in a panic from what was said. This video had actually been very, very hard for me to find, so I don't know if they scrubbed the video or if they never put the video out there, but it was hard for me to find. But for a while, there were not any updates on Quawan's case, and for a while, police initially was not looking at Janet or her child as a suspect in Quawan's mysterious death. Their photos have been shared on various social media platforms just so people can go ahead and get some answers on their whereabouts or any information on what could have happened to Quawan and what transpired that day. I'm guessing police got some very, very crucial information because on February 9th in the year of 2021, Janet had actually been arrested for contributing to the delinquency of a minor and also failing to report a missing child.
Developing tonight, authorities in Louisiana have now arrested a woman in connection with the mysterious death of 15-year-old Quawan Charles. Janet Irvin now facing charges of contributing to the delinquency of a minor and failure to report a missing child. Now, last October, Irvin and her son picked up Charles and brought him to their home, but the boy's parents did not know he had been picked up and then reported him missing. 4 days later, law enforcement found his body in a ditch.
It was also reported that Janet had actually given Quawan drugs during their time together. And they had actually found this information out 3 months before her arrest. And I'm also not too sure how they found out this information, if they spoke with Janet or if they got some type of video proof or anything, or autopsy done. That I'm not too clear of. But what I am thinking is that they might have been maybe investigating, and keeping it under wraps just so Janet won't try to flee or whatever, so they can just gather up as much information as possible. I mean, it could be a possibility, but who knows with the way they were just so neglectful throughout this entire case. Now, as I mentioned before, Janet did go ahead and get arrested, but she did not serve nearly enough time in prison. She had actually posted bail not long after the judge had went ahead and reduced her bail from $400,000 to just $40,000. And the reasons for that is not listed. And that just brings me to the secrecy in this case is what bothered me and a lot of other people. Because it's just like it's barely enough information that was put out, barely any urgency put in. And that's why a lot of people feel like this was a cover-up and everyone was involved, Quawan's family included. And obviously his family was completely outraged after hearing that. Researching this, it made me completely outraged. His first cousin had actually did an interview and she was pleading. She spoke on the fact that her family had been outraged, saying, and I quote, "Quawan is dead, Quawan was murdered." He continued on stating that her aunt was not happy. Her aunt, which was Quawan's mother, was not happy about Janet being able to post bail and being free while her son had passed. Just knowing that her baby was not going to get the justice that he rightfully deserved. An article posted on April of 2021. It states that Janet had to wear an ankle monitor and she was restricted from going anywhere other than work, places for medical reasons, and also court. And what really pissed me off even more was it stated that while Quawan was passed away and not able to live his life, this lady was shacking up with her boyfriend in Youngsville. It's like she served such little time, and while his family is grieving and just going through it, she's just living it up and able to just do things still and be outside. It's ridiculous. Sam Wise had actually been questioned by the public as to why, when this case had first transpired, why didn't he ping Quawan's phone immediately like they did the day he was found? And to that, this was his response. He states, "I don't know why it wasn't done, but here at Baldwin Police, we don't ping phones. We tried reaching out to the young man the entire weekend by calling and texting him and just trying to get a hold of him. So our agency is not able to ping phones because we don't have that type of technology at this department." Quawan's parents believed that his murder was a racial attack. And a lot of people feel that way as well. So many rallies were held for this young man. Protests were held for this young man. So many people were outside standing for hours, screaming at the top of their lungs, justice for this young man, bringing so many eyes and ears to this case. The attorney for his family even feels that this case had been handled completely differently had he been of a different race. An activist by the name of Andre Arsenis, I really hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. If I'm not, I do apologize. But he had been working with the family during this entire time, and he also felt very strongly about the police not taking this case seriously. He goes on record to state, regardless of whether this was racially motivated or not, regardless of what the situation surrounding his death may be, the fact that the police department didn't act the way they would have acted if Quawan was a 15-year-old white girl named Katie, that's the problem. And I don't like to get personal, but a lot of people, including myself, definitely agree with that statement. The Louisiana Police Department expressed that the case is still very much open and it is not going to be a cold case. Far from being a cold case, I quote. It's like, honestly, I just wish this young man had a fair trial. He deserved the justice that he never got, and his family as well. It always seems in these situations that other races get the attention and the support and the fair investigation and trials that they deserve. And when it comes to our community, it just does not happen that way. It is truly heartbreaking and it's truly unfair. And honestly, I hadn't even heard of this case until I decided to do research of more stories. It was not circulating on the internet. I didn't see any articles about it. And I know that most people hadn't, like most cases in the Black community. And that just goes to show how there is absolutely no urgency when it comes to us. It was so much things that frustrated me with this case, like why wasn't an Amber Alert issued immediately? The ping situation, like why did it take so long to ping his phone? I know they said that the technology, but like I just don't understand, and I'm not really too familiar with the Amber Alert process. I don't know how it goes if they do issue it immediately. So if I am putting out misinformation, please do correct me in the comments below. But Quawan was only 15. He was a minor, so I feel like there still should have been some kind of urgency. It was just too many excuses on this case and not enough hands. Point blank, period. Phew, you guys, so it was definitely a lot to take in. That case was definitely a lot to take in. Prayers to Quawan's family. I truly hope something comes of this case and that justice is served. So this is the end of the video. And if you guys decide to have any kind of dialogue in the comment section, please keep it respectful, because Quawan's family is still here and is still, you know, looking at these videos, and it's still respectful to just, you know, keep it positive in the comments. And as always, if you guys want me to cover any cases that you know of, definitely go ahead and hit me up in my email that's in the first comment or the description box, or any of my social media contacts, and I will definitely gladly go ahead and cover that. But I will see you guys in the next true crime video, and I hope you guys keep it safe out there.